When Emily laughed that night, I knew something inside me had shifted forever. We were sitting at the dining table, the remains of dinner still scattered between us. I had just finished telling her I wouldn't argue anymore, that I was done raising my voice and chasing her validation. And that's when she leaned back in her chair, her lips curling into a smirk that cut deeper than any insult. "I've finally tamed you," she said, her voice laced with triumph. "Took me long enough, but now you know your place." The words hit me like ice water poured straight into my chest. Tamed? Was I her husband? Or some wild animal she thought needed breaking? I stared at her, trying to recognize the woman I married in the stranger sitting across from me. Once upon a time, Emily had been soft, gentle, the kind of person who made me believe in partnership. But somewhere along the line, control had replaced love, and humiliation had become her weapon of choice. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat and forced myself to stay calm. "Is that what you think this marriage is, Emily? A game you win by breaking me?" She laughed again, louder this time, like I had just confirmed her victory. "Don't act so dramatic, Michael. All men resist at first. But eventually they learn. And you've finally learned." Her words echoed in my ears long after she left the table. That night, as she slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every argument, every dismissal, every mocking smile. It wasn't just the words she spoke, it was the truth behind them. She didn't see me as her partner anymore. She saw me as her conquest. And in that moment, I knew something had to change. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. So the next morning, before Emily even woke up, I pulled out the envelope I had hidden away for weeks. Inside were the divorce papers, signed, dated, final. The decision I had been too afraid to make was already sealed. All I had to do was show her. The papers felt heavier than they should have, as if they carried not just ink and signatures, but years of swallowed pride, silent tears, and nights spent wondering where the love had gone. I tucked them into my briefcase before leaving for work, rehearsing the words I'd say when I finally handed them over. For the first time in months, my chest felt lighter. Not happy, but free. Throughout the day, I kept thinking back to Emily's smirk, the way she had spoken as if I were nothing more than a project she'd completed. That image alone fueled my resolve. I had spent years trying to fix us, trying to reason, compromise, and fight for something she had already turned into a battlefield. But no more. When I returned home that evening, Emily was in the living room, scrolling through her phone with that same air of superiority she had worn the night before. She barely looked up when I walked in. "You're late," she muttered, as though I owed her an explanation. I set my briefcase down and sat across from her. My heart pounded, but my voice was steady. "Emily, I've made my decision." Finally, she glanced at me, arching an eyebrow. "Decision? About what?" "Dinner." Her tone was dripping with mockery. I reached into my bag and placed the envelope on the coffee table between us. For a moment, she looked at it with confusion, then curiosity. When she pulled out the papers and saw my signature at the bottom, her smirk faltered. "What is this?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Divorce," I said simply. "You wanted control, Emily. You wanted to break me down until I was nothing. But I won't live like that. I'm not your conquest. I'm your husband, or at least I was supposed to be. But since you see this as a game, I'm done playing." Her hands trembled slightly as she held the papers, though she tried to mask it with a scoff. "You're bluffing. You'd never leave me." But the fear in her eyes told me she knew I wasn't bluffing at all. For a long moment, the room was filled only with the sound of paper rustling in her hands. I watched as Emily's confidence, the very shield she had hidden behind for years, began to crack. Her smirk was gone, replaced by something she had never shown me before: uncertainty. "You can't be serious," she whispered, her voice unsteady. "After everything we've built? You'd just throw it away?" I leaned back, exhaustion pressing down on me, but my resolve holding firm. "Emily, I didn't throw anything away. You did. Every time you belittled me, every time you mocked my efforts, every time you treated our marriage like a contest. You may think you've tamed me, but all you've really done is push me to my limit." Her eyes flashed with anger, but it was different this time. Less arrogance, more desperation. "So that's it. You're walking out." I nodded slowly. I'm choosing peace. For once, I'm choosing myself. The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Emily opened her mouth to argue, to claw back control with her usual sharp words, but nothing came out. Instead, she stared at the papers as if they were a mirror showing her a reality she had never imagined. A life where her power games no longer worked. I stood, walked toward the door, and picked up my coat. The papers are signed. You can fight them if you want, but it won't change the truth. This marriage died the moment you decided winning mattered more than loving. Her voice finally broke, trembling as she called after me. Michael, wait. For the first time, her tone wasn't commanding or mocking, it was pleading. But I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Because I knew if I did, I'd see the woman I once loved instead of the one who had laughed at my pain. As I stepped outside, the night air hit my face, cool and cleansing. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight slide off my shoulders. Emily had wanted victory, but in the end the real freedom was mine. And with every step I took away from that house, her laughter grew smaller, until all that was left was silence, and the promise of a life I could finally call my own.